Hi, my name is Tammy Lund Smith. I'm a paralegal with Montana Elder Law, and my job is to help alleviate any stress or concerns you have with the probate process. Probate is a very scary word, and I'm here to try to tell you that we are here to help you through this entire process. So if there's anything that we can do during this whole probate process, please feel like you can always call us. We are here for you. I've been probating estates for 33 plus years, and I can answer just about every question you have. So first of all, one of the things that we're going to talk about is whether or not, what triggers a probate. And one of the things that will trigger the need for a probate is whether or not your loved one had real estate in his or her own name. And that need will definitely result in a probate. The other thing is whether or not there are assets over $50,000 in his or her own name. That will definitely trigger the need for a probate. There are many other reasons that will trigger probate, or whether or not probate is a good reason for other reasons. So we'll visit more about that. But first, let's talk about our intake form that we have. We have an intake form that you've probably been sent and you're probably looking at right now. And this is one of our ways to get to know you. And so we'd like to get to know you and your family a little bit better. So I'm going to talk to you about trying to complete that intake form. We've also sent you a documents needed list. And that's going to also help to get to know you and your loved ones. So I'm going to try to visit with you a little bit about getting those completed and gathering the documents that we need to try to help process through this probate. So the documents needed list, if you have a chance to go through that a little bit, you've probably looked it over and thought it was a little large, but it's not as scary as you think either. So let's start with the intake form first. The first part of the intake form is referenced as caller, personal representative. The most important part is you, as the person who is completing this, fill this out. Even if you're not going to be the personal representative, I'd like you to fill that part out. We'll worry about who's going to be the personal representative as we go along. And that way you are our contact person. The next part is going to be about the loved one who has passed away. We want to know about the loved one, the decedent's last name, first name, middle name. We want to know his Social Security number, his or her Social Security number. We want to know place of death, county, as much information as we can about them. We're also going to want to know if the decedent was a veteran. And the reason that's going to be important is because we're going to be wanting to try to provide as many benefits as possible to the family. There's benefits out there for the veteran, and there's benefits out there for a widow spouse. So we'd like to try to provide as much as possible for the family. The third section in the intake form is about the spouse and the children. So the spouse and children comes up next. It's very important to not only just have their name, but we want to know about their address and phone number and their date of birth. And the date of birth is important because we need to know if they're of legal age. If you don't know if their date of birth exactly, at least provide us with whether they're of legal age or not. The other part that's important is we want to know if any of them are disabled. And why that's important is we want to make sure that we're not providing an inheritance to a disabled child. And that becomes important because we don't want them to lose any of their public benefits. It takes a lot to get on public benefits, and we don't want any of the children to lose any of their public benefits. So we have ways to work with that. There's a spot on page 2 of the intake form that says only answer this if there was no will, no spouse, and no children. And this is asking for addresses of siblings or parents. And this is important because it means that there's an intestate estate, and it means that there's no children and no spouse. And so we're following the laws of intestacy. So we're trying to figure out who's going to inherit and how it's going to happen. So we're trying to get that information. You can still fill that out if you want, but it's not necessary if there's a will and if there's spouse and children involved. Now we're at the assets as of the date of death. The way I look at this is a snapshot of that date. Things change, and we understand that things change because it could mean that there was a different value now, but as of the date of death is what we're looking at. And I know everyone looks at it and says, how do I get to those assets? How do I figure that out? It's a lot easier if it's a spouse, because the spouse has access a lot of times. But if it's the children, I know the children look at it and said, I don't know how to access this information. How do I do that? A lot of times it's just gathering all the mail from the parents. And sometimes it's a lot of digging through all of the mail and saying, okay, where is this information? Sometimes it's easier. Sometimes there's files in the parents' file box. Sometimes it's just a matter of being a detective and trying to find it all. So what you want to do is you want to go through bank statements. You want to go see if there's any tax statements. Sometimes parents don't file taxes anymore after a certain age, but they still get 1099s. They still get 1099 DIVs. They get 1099Rs. So you want to try to get all of that information gathered. Any of that information helps us try to help figure out what kind of assets are out there. And trust me, it's amazing what you will find in a bank statement. Sometimes you will find that they were paying life insurance policies, and that's where you can find maybe a policy out there that will help families. So you want to try to see what you can find. Sometimes there's an old policy that's been paid up, and we can try to gather that. And even if you think that policy is old and it doesn't exist anymore, bring it. We can try to find it for you and see what's out there. So we're out there to try to find as many assets for you as you can and as we can. Our job is to try to get you as much as we can through this probate. That's our job. The next thing is assets. On the asset list is vehicles. We can try to help you figure out how to transfer those vehicles into the right names. So try to give us all the vehicle titles you can, and we will try to help you process those. Some of the other items that are common that people have is coin collections. Sometimes they're paintings. There's all kinds of things that people just don't realize that they have. And so come to us. We can try to help you figure this out. Sometimes people just don't know how to deal with all of the assets, and that's our job. We try to make sure you guys don't have capital gains, and that's why we want to make sure that you get the house sold and we value it appropriately, and we can do this for you. Okay, the documents needed list. Now it looks like a lot, but most of this information was already discussed in our intake form. Death certificate, you've probably already gathered that. So we just need an original of that, or a certified death certificate. The DD-214 on that, that's only if there's a veteran. And if you don't have that and you can't find that, we can help you with that. If you knew your loved one was a veteran, we can help you with that. If there was a will, we'll need the original. If you can only find a copy, it's okay. Just come right in and bring us that copy, and we can deal with without original. We can deal with that. If there was a trust, a copy of that trust document would be helpful. If there wasn't a trust, then don't worry about it. Just put NA, not applicable. We can work without that because we don't need a trust. If there was guardianship or conservatorship, bring us those documents. That's rare, but it happens. So bring us those documents. Bring in any kind of bills. That's what we're here for. We're here to look through those bills and try to take care of everything for you. So we get to be the ones that help you manage that. If you're too stressed to deal with that, that's our job. We get to take care of that for you. So bring them in and we'll work through that with you. Remember when I was talking on the intake form about the income, the 1099 DIVs, 1099 INTs? Bring in any kind of tax information you have. If there was any tax returns filed, bring those in. That can help us figure out what we need. Now I'm on to the financial information. This is where we're talking about bank statements. This is where we're talking about any kind of investment accounts. This is where we're talking about any kind of vehicle titles. This is where we're talking about brokerage accounts, any kind of statements whatsoever. And bring in whatever you have. Don't worry about whether you think it's pertinent or not. We'll let you know. This is where you just get to dump everything on us and we get to take the responsibility off of you. It's our job to take away your stress. We get to handle it for you. Remember I talked about life insurance statements, life insurance policies, and you think they're too old? Bring them in. We'll figure it out for you. We'll see what there is in it and we'll handle it for you. A lot of times people have prepaid burials. Bring those in and we'll go through it and see what there is and we'll help you out. I'm assuming maybe by now you've gotten it taken care of, but if not, we'll get it figured out for you. A lot of times there's a veteran's benefit for someone who's a veteran, so we'll talk to you about that too. So needless to say, We'll handle whatever your worries are. We'll handle whatever questions you have. Just get this intake form into us. Call us with any questions you have. Our job is to relieve and alleviate any stress you have. This is a time that you don't need any extra concerns or worries. So give us a call.